Hello. Sorry, I didn't see you there. I was just watching time passing by. Don't touch your face. Welcome to a new show, Good Thing, Bad Thing, Thing. This is a new web series where I'm going to highlight a good thing, low light a bad thing, and medium light a medium thing. We're living in interesting times. In the before times, people used to believe that trees breathed out oxygen. We now know, of course, that this was a hoax made up by a series of bored scientists as part of their long-running feud with the Welsh folkloric creature the Avunk. The oxygen didn't come from trees. In fact, it was just an intricate series of Glade plugins. We now know that oxygen, of course, comes from the heavy, disappointed sighs of old people when they realise they need a wee and don't know how to pause live television. Our lives have been forever transformed. The word binge now means love. Pasta is considered legal tender, except of course for Scottish pasta, and I can no longer see the colour blue. I'm not sure if this is relevant, but it is still of course concerning. Don't touch your face. This week's good thing. The Dresden Files. It's an urban fantasy book series written by Jim Butcher following a PI wizard detective called Harry Dresden. I've been into this series for a while. I've been telling people to read it. And the reason I'm telling you about it today is that last week they dropped, I think it was last week, I've lost all sense of time. They dropped the trailer for the newest book, Peace Talks, book 16 of the series. At the end of the trailer, there was a special surprise announcement. The book 17 is going to come out 2 months after that. So we're getting a double drop of books this year. So if you were going to start on the series, now's the time to do it. The whole thing has a noir detective vibe. Each book is a case file within the series, but there is a long overarching episodic feel, so they're not just standalone, but you can read them on their own. There's really interesting character arcs that go on over lots of books, so it's something for the kind of the geeks who really like long stories and long series. Jim Butcher started the series in a bid to prove to his writing teacher that her exercises were a waste of time. The first book he wrote whilst trying to prove her wrong was the first book of the Dresden Files. He then went on to sell it as like a 20-book series. There's also a bunch of side stories which gives you the perspective from some of the supporting characters. There were 2 anthology books released, Side Jobs and Briefcases, and they'll give you kind of insight into some of those other characters. I've loved this series for years. I got into them because I was obsessed with The Name of the Wind, which is another series that I'll probably be highlighting another day, and I wanted to know what the author of that's favourite books were, and it turned out to be the Dresden Files. If you're a completionist and tenacious, I'd say, start from the beginning, but otherwise I recommend people to start on book 3, which is Grave Peril. I don't want to put people off before they've even got into it, so it's a good place to start. The first couple are a bit alright. The tone is fun and silly with long character arcs, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. If you like an audiobook, I can give these 2 thumbs up. They're read by James Masters, who plays Spike from Buffy. In fact, the whole series kind of feels similar, and I think Jim Butcher has said, the vibe of it is inspired by that kind of thing. Very much like a series of Buffy. If you like that kind of thing, this is for you. A couple of criticisms. I would say probably more early on at least, female characters aren't portrayed necessarily in the best way. More in the sense that, every time the main character meets a female character, he describes their appearance. I noticed this as I reread them and I'm like, really, every time? But this does get better as things go on, and it is sometimes addressed in the books, and there are now some really good female characters later on, so I would say don't let that put you off, but it's definitely something to think about. To give you a flavour, one of my favourite openings to one of the books, I think the main character is running away from a bunch of flying purple monkeys who are throwing flaming poo at him while he's trying to save a box of magical puppies. A couple of my favourite quotes. One is, "The building was on fire, it wasn't my fault." And one that I have framed in the hallway of my house, which says, "Paranoid? Probably, but just because you're paranoid doesn't mean there isn't an invisible demon about to eat your face." So, if you need something to occupy your time, I can't recommend this series enough. You've got 15 books, 16 and 17 coming later this year, bunch of side stories, and the comic books, and the awful TV show that was made of it. To keep yourself entertained, I highly recommend them. This week's bad thing is touching your face. Scientists have said that people touch their face many times an hour, and as we all know, many times is a lot of times. There's a variety of reasons why we touch our face: emotional self-soothing, nervous habit, or just, trying to keep the human flesh mask on to prevent us from revealing the empty hollowness that lives within. This week's thing is the Snapchat face filter thing for Zoom, which can make you look like this. My 5-year-old nephew now calls me up to tell me I look like a potato. I try to explain to him that the filter isn't on, but he won't believe me. That's been this week's good thing, bad thing, thing. Join me next time where I highlight another good thing, low light another bad thing, and medium light another medium thing. Stay safe out there, and remember, don't touch your face.